Yo, what up? Welcome inside the opening line, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Main man, Benny Ricciardi, joining you right here on the Guru Elite YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe so you see when the video comes up. Benny, we have a high holy day of sports today, and I am so looking forward to it. It is opening day in Major League Baseball, and Sweet 16 kicks off tonight. And we got some more stuff going on too, Benny. What's going on with you, my man, as you get ready for this great day of sports?
Yeah, I mean, we got MLB to look at and bet on. We got college basketball. We got NBA basketball. You got MMA coming up this weekend, big fights in Philly. There's a lot of things to going on today, which is good, man. I mean, you know, that's what I like about working over here because you cannot do all this research by yourself. I know that because I didn't sleep last night and I couldn't do the research for all these sports by myself, which is why I like the fact that we have such a diverse group of people who I trust here and their opinions because I basically – was bouncing ideas off of Vlad in D.C. yesterday for baseball. I was doing my own stuff for NBA right now. I'm going to listen to the podcast when we get off here with Tommy and an MLB model talking and Sports Cheetah talking a little bit about the NCAA tournament. This way I can get all my bets in, get all that stuff done, get my articles done. And then at like 1 o'clock when that Yankee game starts, I'm just going to watch sports from 1 o'clock until the end of the day today.
Hopefully that is my plan today. Also, I plan to try to be back home by 1 o'clock. By first pitch over at the ballpark in the Boogie Down. I need to make a trip out to your way. I'm hopping on that. I believe it's at 11:30, 160 to the Meadowlands. Make me a pickup at the FanDuel Sportsbook. And then I'm going to lay it down a little bit, too. It's always good to lay it down a little bit at the window. You know, the apps are cool, too, but having a couple tickets stashed in the house for a rainy day is never a bad idea either. Benny, I don't ever remember opening day and the Sweet 16 being on the same day.
Baseball is actually starting earlier this year than normal.
That's what I thought.
It's normally I remember it being like the beginning of April. So I mean we're not that much earlier, but it is a little bit earlier. And even the season ends a little bit earlier this year. Like I think the last day of the season is like September 28th. Normally they go right up to like September 30th is the last day or September 29th. So it's a couple days early, not a big deal. I don't know. Maybe they might have taken it easy like the middle of April because Easter is like late April this year. So maybe they gave the guys probably going to be like a schedule with only a couple games those days or something. So I guess they had to add a few days at the beginning. I don't think it's a bad thing though. I mean, baseball, like here's my thing with baseball. Like with basketball, you got guys sitting out back-to-backs all the night. You play 3 games in 3 days every series in baseball at a minimum, sometimes it's 4 in 4 days. So, baseball players don't need to sit out. They can go out there and play every day, and their season's half the year. I mean, they're playing 160-something games.
You know what? It's funny. I've had this conversation with somebody before. It's not to the level of the NBA, but you do see more baseball players taking random days off recently than you have in years in the past. But like you said, it's not to the level. It's nowhere near the level of the NBA.
Yeah, but I mean, and again, there's an argument to be made that in the NBA, you're running up and down the court for 30, 35 minutes, whatever you're playing. Whereas in baseball, I love baseball, but there is a lot of standing around and kind of doing that. I mean, you basically only sprint when you're on the bases or when somebody hits the ball and you're trying to catch it. So
the thing about it is, Benny, when they do sprint, they get injured.
Yeah, well, that's because
a lot of injuries.
The funny thing is, and we used to joke around about it all the time, but when you grew up, there's a fat kid that you grew up with who wasn't very good at football unless he was an lineman, or wasn't very good at basketball unless he was 6'8" and he was just going to park himself in the lane. But you could be kind of out of shape and still be a good baseball player. I mean, nobody's going to look at John Kruk if they didn't know who he was and be like, that's an elite athlete right there. But
no,
that's an elite athlete right there. That's a baseball player.
Wow, that's basically how baseball is. Take a fat boy, take a fat kid, stick him behind the plate, and hopefully he can swing the bat. You know what I'm saying?
Or you take a little skinny kid like Tim Lincecum who can throw a ball 96 miles an hour, and you're like, there's no way that guy's a professional pitcher, and you're like, well, he's a Cy Young Award winner, so yeah, he can throw.
Benny, I'm much like you. Was up early this morning, and the first thing I really did, I'll be honest with you, I logged on to Elite Fantasy, took a look around some of what's going on with the baseball stuff. I also logged on to Guru Elite, took a look at some of the guys' baseball picks for the day. So I want to kind of start on some of the things that I pointed out and some of the things that I looked at, some of the matchups. We do got some marquee matchups on opening day to get things started. But before we get into them, Benny, I want to know, do you or have you experimented with betting the first half of a baseball game, the first 5 innings, where you kind of look to eliminate the bullpen?
Yeah, I usually don't mess around with that. A lot of my baseball bets, I'm a lot like Rob. I do the same thing that Rob does, basically. I kind of stick to the money line. Like, I don't even mess with the -1 runs or anything like that because, you get a walk-off home run or you get, a tie game in the ninth inning and you got a guy on second, somebody hits a single, that guy scores, boom, game ends with 1 run right there. So for me, the best way to bet baseball has always been just doing it on the money line. I will say this, though. If you're going to do the first 5 innings, I would stick to games where you have a stud pitcher on the mound.
No doubt.
You get like 5 innings out of like a Chris Sale, out of well, today's a tough day because DeGrom and Scherzer are going against each other. So, I mean, really, there's no advantage for either one of them. But if you're going to play the first 5 innings, those are the games that I'd feel the safest about. But again, those are also the games where you're probably not getting very good odds with those guys on the mound.
Yeah, no doubt. I saw a couple of first half, especially particularly of that game, which we are about to talk about and discuss now. And I saw that the under on that one may have been at like -105 or -110, something like that. First 5 for those 2 stud pitchers, right there. What I wanted to touch on, another thing right quick, as far as we get ready to start and roll into baseball, is I think I agree with you. Those money lines are the way to go. So I'm going to be experimenting with it. It's not betting too heavy. Kind of see kind of get a rhythm and a strategy going. Because because I don't want to lose any money. So I was online today. I was on Guru Elite. I was on Elite Fantasy, looking around at some of the stuff, trying to get ready for tonight and today. Really, another. We got back-to-back weeks of Thursdays full of sports. Last week it was college basketball. Today is college basketball, the NBA, and Major League Baseball. And let's kick it off with opening day. That matchup you talked about, Benny, the Mets and the Nats. The Mets coming in this one at +116. DeGrom and Scherzer, two of the the 2 dudes that have won the last 3 Cy Youngs in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is one of those games that, if you like pitching, there's going to be a whole bunch of Pitching Ninja, Twitter, gifts from this game with these 2 guys on the mound. As far as betting, though, I mean, this is a game where obviously the under, even though it's a small number, is one you want to look at. These are 2 guys that could both go 7-8 innings, strike out 10 guys, and give up 1 run or 2 runs at a maximum. So, really you're just looking for one of them to make a mistake. Like a 2-run home run at some point in this game very likely is going to be the deciding factor in it because these are 2 of the best pitchers in the league.
No, I think take a look at this one, experimenting with it. A number of different ways you can play it. So, like I said, I saw some stuff inside the Guru Elite betting package for MLB. So when I'm out at the book today, I might lay down a little something, especially since we're going to have that good action on this contest. The Braves and the Phillies, one of the marquee matches of the day. Braves come in at +166. Julio Teheran and Aaron Nola. The Phils obviously looking to get started. The Bryce Harper era in Philadelphia now begins and it tips off first pitch or whatever you want to call it. The interesting bet today is a prop, and you probably know what it is. Bryce Harper to hit a home run. He's homing on 5 opening days. Yep. Harper to home of the day is +330.
It's boosted on one of the sites too because it's over 350. I forget which one, but I was looking at it last night.
It's boosted on DraftKings.
It's not okay. I was gonna say it's over. I think it was over 350 that I saw because I almost clicked on it last night, but I wrote it down on my little list of shit to look at in a little while when I start sitting down after I get my work.
Put an asterisk next to that one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know what? I mean, like you said, he homers all the time on opening day, so it's a pretty good bet. It's +350, so if you lay 100, you can walk away with an extra 350 in your pocket. That's a pretty good number. I mean, that's something that's worth taking a little bit of a shot on. The game's in Philly too, right?
The game is in Philadelphia. It is at Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah, that's a good home run hitter's ballpark too. So this is definitely one of those ones that has some legs that you guys should be looking at. Again, this is not like, I'm going all in on a Bryce Harper home run kind of bet. These prop bets are not for that. But you throw 40, $50 on it, you turn it into, $200 or $300, and then you got a couple bucks right there. A lot of these sites, especially on these boosts like this, they won't let you put more than 100. So even if you are going to put something big on it, I don't think they'd even let you go above 100.
No, they're not going to let you go crazy on this, particularly on this one right here, because I know a lot of people are going to be up there today and online or whatever they're doing, and they're going to be trying to hammer that one. Mm-hmm. You think the Phillies win the National League East?
You know what? My biggest thing is whether or not they have enough pitching. I mean, Aaron Nola's a stud. I like the Phillies a lot today. I actually bet on them already today to win this game. But I don't know if they have enough pitching behind him to really win the East. I mean, because you're looking at you know, the Mets have DeGrom and Scherzer's back. Syndergaard is back healthy there as well. You know, they got a couple other pitchers, Wheeler, guys like that. So they have a pretty good staff. And they also got better by adding some pieces on offense, you know, the Robinson Canoes and stuff like that. The Phillies offense is really what I think is going to have to carry them. I saw that lineup today. That lineup top to bottom is pretty good. I mean, Maikel Franco is hitting 8th. He's the worst hitter in that lineup.
That's crazy.
I mean, again, he's, you know, he does make a lot of outs, but he also has a lot of power and, you know, is a young player who could improve. I mean, that is a really good lineup top to bottom. McCutchen in there now, Harper, Realmuto. You know, they added a lot of people on offense. So I like the Phillies. I think that is the toughest division in baseball. I think it's probably the most even because last year I liked the Nationals a lot, but obviously taking Harper off there is going to hurt them. You know, they brought up some young kids who they have that are pretty good outfielders as well. So it cushions the blow, but it's not the same. The Mets got better. Atlanta's not a bad team. So everybody in that division has a chance.
Was Ronald Acuna like the consensus first overall pick in season-long fantasy drafts? I mean,
it was still like Trout. Trout was still number one. But Acuna did move. I mean, it depends who you talk to, too, because there's some people who think his last season was a fluke. I am not one of those people. I think he's good.
I wouldn't buy into that.
No, and he's hitting – I think they have him hitting cleanup, or they're scheduled to have him hit cleanup. Now, again, we don't know how long all those lineups are going to stay that way. But in the preseason, they had him hitting cleanup. So not only are you getting a good young player, but you're getting a good young player with prime lineup real estate, you know, hitting behind Freddie Freeman right there, giving him some protection. I think Acuna's in for a really good year. He was a guy that was going in the first round or two. But, I mean, you still had, like, Trout, Mookie Betts, J.D. Martinez. Like, those were still the guys at the top of most of the drafts.
Okay, cool. Another interesting thing with the Phils is I worry about their manager. If I'm a Phillies fan, I think their manager could be a problem at times. You know what I'm saying? The way he manages the game.
You know, at the beginning of last season, everybody was hating on him, right? Like, everybody was basically calling him out. He was making mistakes. He was doing stupid stuff. But by the end of the season, everybody was kind of like, oh, he really does actually know what he's doing. Listen, the Phillies, they didn't have a ton. I didn't think they had a ton of talent last year where they should have been as good as they were. So to me, they actually overperformed the expectations that I had for them. And that's my thing. Like, if you're going to overperform the expectations that you have, then that means you're doing something right. Now you give a guy who overperformed with really kind of a shitty roster. I mean, Rhys Hoskins was supposed to be their best hitter last year, and he really did not have a good season. So they were getting it done with, you know, guys that nobody ever heard of for the most part in that offense. You look at that offense now, they're legitimate hitters top to bottom. So, you know, you give again, we talked about it the other day, coach's job is not to screw things up, and you really need players. Having good players on your team makes your job as a coach a lot easier. He's got a lot of good players on his team this year, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think the Phillies are going to be good.
All right, up next, another marquee matchup of pitchers. Excuse me. You got the Houston Astros and the Tampa Bay Rays. Verlander and Snell on the mound. The Rays home dog coming in at plus 112. This Blake Snell kid, you see a lot of good talk about him in fantasy circles.
Oh, he's no joke, man. Snell is a very good pitcher. The problem is he's taking on a very good lineup today, although I think Carlos Correa is probably going to be out, so you're getting them a little bit weaker. But, I mean, there's still good hitters top to bottom in that Houston Astros lineup. This is a tough one here because I think this is another one of those games kind of like the Mets and the Nationals where, you know, this game is going to be 3-2 or, you know, 2-1, something like that. My bigger problem is Tampa Bay's offense still kind of sucks. So, you know, Snell's going to have the DeGrom problem from last year. The kid could wind up with a sub-3 ERA and, you know, a losing record this year. So, you know, he's a very, very good pitcher. If you pick them up in fantasy, you're going to get the strikeouts. The ratios are going to be nice. But hopefully you picked up some fourth or fifth starter on a team that's going to win 100 games because you're going to need the wins.
No doubt about it. And the last game I want to talk about that's on the docket today for Major League Baseball, you got the Indians and the Twins, Corey Kluber and Jose Berrios. Twins plus 104 in this one. I don't know if he was at the book the other night. I was talking with one of the cats that was over there about teams that can turn a profit for you this year. You're not going to turn a profit betting the Yankees and the Red Sox because you're always getting them at minus money. Last year, that team was the Brewers. I asked the kid sitting over there, who's this year's Brewers? And without didn't even think. And he said the Twins. And he's not the only person I've heard say that.
Right. So here's the deal. I mean, for those of you who don't understand what Corey's talking about, like, yeah, you could bet the Yankees and the Yankees can win 100 games this year. But if all those games, they're minus 250, minus 300 favorites, when you lose, you're going to be, losing $100 if you bet $100 a game. When you win on minus 300 favorite, you're winning like 30, like around $30, 25, $30, something like that. So really you got to win 4 bets to cover the one that you lost. So, in order for the Yankees to turn a profit, if they're going to be going off at like minus 300 every day, you basically need them to win like 120 games, which would be like ridiculous. Nobody's going to do that.
They're not going to be that good.
Yeah, they're not going to be that. Although, I mean, again, you're a Yankees fan, I'm a Yankees fan, so hopefully we're wrong. But
yeah, optimistic, but yeah.
Yeah, like history and statistics kind of tell us that, the good teams are going to win a little over 100 games. They're not going to get over $120. So a lot of times it is one of those.
Playoffs is almost impossible to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you add up all the wins together, it's still pretty hard. You look at the teams that do normally turn like a profit, and it tends to be smaller market teams because they don't have as much money bet on them. Like there's Yankee fans all over the country, so there's people betting on the Yankees all over the country. So Vegas, every other book is not ever going to give you a solid line on the New York Yankees. If you're somebody who does handicapping, that your number usually comes in, where you're better off betting against the Yankees than you are betting on them, because those games that they do lose, the payoff for you being on the side against them, getting a plus 250, plus 350.
It's the Serena Williams, Floyd Mayweather theory.
Yes, exactly. 100%. Now you're going to lose a lot more often than you win, but when you win, the amount of money you win is going to make up for the 3 or 4 losses that you had before there. The Royals, that's a team that a lot of times winds up like at or above a profit for the year. You always get like Milwaukee last year was a team that at the beginning of the year, a lot of people picked them to be okay, and they wound up being pretty much close to great. And that's usually the way that it happens, is you find the team that most people are picking to be a middle of the road. And if you ride them for the whole season and they wind up being great and making the playoffs, those are usually the teams that you can turn a profit on. I don't see the Twins making the playoffs. I guess what a lot of people are thinking, though, is they're a team that can compete with the Indians, where maybe they're the second team in that division. Because there are a couple teams in that division that are kind of crappy. So that's probably what people are thinking on it. And again, the Twins not being a major market team, you're not usually having to pay a premium to bet on them. You're usually getting them at, the odds that they probably should be at, with Vegas not jacking it up a little bit.
And they can be a home dog more than likely, too.
Yeah, they're going to be home dogs sometimes. When they go on the road, they're going to be a team that, where other teams might be plus 120 or plus 130, they're going to be plus 150, 160. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, Rob, if you guys haven't followed the elite Twitch sports betting account that Rob does over at, MLB Model does over on Twitch, he basically breaks it all down. The good thing about baseball betting has like the smallest rake of any of the major sports. It's like a nickel. For the spreads that they put in there. That's really all the books are trying to make. And they can do that because when you have 162 game schedule, they don't need to gouge you. Like in football, they gouge you because there's only really
17. You only got 17 weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of money being bet, but really it's only being bet 17 times. Baseball is 162 game schedule, and you do have some days off in between. So you probably got like 180, 190 days of betting. So they can take a little bit of money every day for 190 days, and at the end of the season, it all kind of adds up. But it does make it easier. Yeah, it makes it easier to grind out a profit in a sport like baseball, where the money isn't that much that's coming out for rake.
All right, so listen to the opening line, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. Corey and Benny rocking with you on opening day, Sweet 16. Also, so tonight is a beautiful NBA slate tonight. Might be the best NBA slate of the past couple of months. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But I won't hop on that in a minute. But yesterday, Benny, I came in here. I had to run downtown to WABC Radio, did my show with Danny B. Got an air on Saturday on KLA. That is the broadcast station that carries the Los Angeles Dodgers. So you'll be able to hear that on Saturday afternoon if you are in the Los Angeles market. So we recorded that joint, and then I came – as soon as I got back into Manhattan, somebody hit me up and was like, yo, yada, 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 can you come back downtown? So I'm like, oh, God. But it was well worth it. You know what I'm saying? This cat I wanted to talk to, some dudes I wanted to meet with. So I go back downtown, whatever. I get back into Harlem. I hit up my bet place. Shout out to my man Jim Day, the homie. I like, yo, I've been waiting for 4 days to bet on North Carolina State. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you got to put this North Carolina State bet in for me. So I had State. I put something on State on the money line.
Okay.
I put State on the point spread, and I bet State in the first half.
Okay.
I broke even. North Carolina State lost that game last night in the most ridiculously wild fashion. They were up 4 with possession with 1 minute and 14 seconds left. They lose the game, Benny. I was broke.
Yeah, they did some dumb things down the stretch. I mean, that's a team that actually has some seniors on it, and they did not play like seniors at the end of the game. A lot of times when you have a team that is young, they make stupid mistakes at the end of the game. You should not be making mistakes like that when you have a mostly a veteran team. I mean, they missed free throws, they missed assignments on defense. Like it wasn't as bad as the other day when LSU was up 20-something and then they almost blew that game. But it was pretty bad there towards the end. So NC State definitely should have won that game. If you had them for the game, it sucks. It's one of those things about gambling every once in a while. Even when you're kind of on the side you should have been on, it doesn't always work out. And I think last night was kind of one of those things with that NC State game.
Yeah, so I'm the NIT Final Four is Wichita, Lipscomb, Texas, and I forget who that 4th team is. They'll be at Madison Square Garden next week. So in the downtime, might hit that back up again. But obviously things get picked up back today with the NCAA tournament opening day and this slate in the NBA. Another bet that I want. Oh, did you see this bad beat last night? The Warriors and the Grizzlies.
Okay.
Total is 221. They were on the total. The total was 221. I believe the final score was 115. Put it like this, they were on the number. Whatever it was, they were on the number. And Memphis had the ball with 1 minute and about 25 seconds left. They took a shot, missed, got the rebound. Took a shot, missed, got the rebound. Took a shot, missed, got the rebound. They got 6 offensive rebounds, took 6 shots. The Warriors finally get the ball, and they run the clock out with the game sitting on the number.
Hey, Vegas, I tell people a lot of the times, like, one of the reasons I love teasers is Vegas is really good at predicting what totals of the
game. They have a crystal ball.
Yeah, they may not always hit it directly on a number like that, but they're usually really close where it comes down to, like, if a guy makes a shot at the end of a game or if a guy misses a shot at the end of the game, that's the difference between you being happy as the guy who took the under and me being happy as the guy who took the over or something like that. So, there's a reason why those casinos are really, really big, and there's a reason why you never hear about sportsbooks going out of business because unless there's some fraud involved, there's a reason why it's not easy to make money doing what we're doing here.
There you go right there. So we are up and rolling. MLB opening day underway. Glad everybody get back in here. Obviously, Benny, when you're finished doing the basketball season, taking care of the basketball subscribers, you'll hop on over there and start looking out for the baseball subscribers. You want to be a baseball subscriber, you sign up at EliteFantasy.com. Many different options, optimizers, whatever you want to get down with. However you like to do your DFS baseball, we got you covered over here as part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. Benny, I told you it was a good night in the NBA tonight. I want to hop into that right quick. Look at some of these things. We got a lot of games tonight. We got 4 games tonight with playoff implications. Starting right here on the East Coast, big day in Philadelphia. You get the 76ers tonight going up against the New Jersey Nets. The New Jersey Nets against the Brooklyn. They ain't been a New Jersey Nets in years. Going up against the Brooklyn Nets. I've been to Brooklyn many times to see them, so I know the team does no longer play in New Jersey. But you got the Phillies in the daytime. Later on tonight, you got the Nets and the Sixers. The Sixers laying 8 points to a net team tonight. Listen, I've been very critical of the Nets, but I have to give them their props. They have had an excellent season, and tonight they get this could be a preview of a first-round playoff matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Philly is still the team that you would expect to win this game.
Yes.
But honestly, the Nets probably need it more than Philly does. There's a couple teams there at the bottom. There's 2 teams. I think it's Miami and I'm trying to think.
Miami, Orlando, and Chicago. That whoever wins that division is going to be the last team to get in.
Yeah, basically there's a bunch of teams down there. there's like 5 teams that are between the 6th spot and, the 9 and 10 spot, which are the 2 teams that missed the playoffs that are all within like 3 games of each other. And I think the Nets are one of them now. They have a 1 or 2 game cushion on, like the Heat, who are in the 9 spot at the moment. But yeah, a team like the Nets, they really can't give away games right here. Now, most teams in the NBA at this point, I mean, we're down to like somewhere between 5 and 10 games, depending on who you are. Like, I don't think anybody has 10 left, and I don't think anybody only has 5. It's like 6 or 7 games left for most of the teams in the NBA here. So a lot of teams basically are either in or out at this point with, like Miami, Orlando, like those teams right there at the bottom still having a chance to either get in the playoffs or get knocked out. Those are the teams that really have the most motivation. And the other thing, too, is like you saw Ben Simmons sit out the other night. You saw Joel Embiid sit out the day before. I don't know if Philly is really trying to push it right now. I mean, they know they're going to be in the playoffs. They know they're probably going to get a pretty decent seed in the first round. And like we talked about in the East, like to me, there are 4 teams in the East that have a chance to win it. And those are the 4 teams I expect to win their first round games. And those are the 4 teams that are going to wind up most likely in the 1 through 4 seed. So I don't really think you have to go crazy this last week of the season if you're Toronto, if you're Philly, if you're Milwaukee. I think those are the teams that, for the most part, they should win their first round series. And then where the East is really going to get fun is going to be when those teams start banging heads in the second round and then moving on to see which 2 of them are going to play each other for the Eastern Conference Championship.
And I agree with you 100% on everything you said right there. That's how the East is going to shake out. Those are the teams right there. Listen, I have terrible luck, terrible luck. Betting for, betting against. Whenever I put money on the New York Nets, it's like karma. They be like, you've talked a lot of shit about us. Now we're going to take your money. If I had to lean anyway this way, I cash that 8 points with the Nets. Another goodie tonight in the Eastern Conference, Orlando Magic, who are streaking right now, travel to Detroit to take on the Pistons. The Pistons laying 3.5 in this one. The total is sitting at 207. One of these 2 teams is not going to score 100 points tonight.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, to be honest with you. I haven't seen any major injury news for either one of these, so you would expect everybody to be there. They are usually 2 somewhat defensive-minded teams, a little bit slower-paced teams. You said 207 was the total on here? I thought I saw 209, but that's fine either way. 209 was a number that I liked a little more for the under. Yeah. 207 is probably about where it should be, so
it's right on the number, Benny.
Yeah, like that's probably about where it should be. I could see this game ending like, 104, 102, or, 101, 105, something like that.
It actually opened up at 206.5 and has been bet up to 207.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Maybe they think because both teams actually have something to play for here. Late in the season, one thing I've noticed late in the season is that a lot of the over-unders have actually come down a little bit. Yeah. But that's also because the under's been
tighter.
Yeah, because the under's actually been hitting more often in a lot of these games too. Now, don't take that as like, oh, every game's going to go under. I mean, really it comes down to the games that are like close, like we're talking about here where there's like playoff implications because those teams are basically in playoff mode. They're playing playoff.
Counts.
Yeah, playoff type defense. Your stars are out on the floor more, and usually your starters, there's a lot of guys that are offensively talented in the NBA. First team, second team, even third team guys, even guys that aren't in the NBA. There's a lot of guys that can play offense. What makes a guy an NBA starter versus a guy who comes off the bench or a guy who's just a journeyman usually is what they do on the defensive end of the floor. So if you're getting the starters playing more minutes, starters tend to be more defensively efficient than, second and third string guys.
No doubt about that. So in this one, I'm going to take the under in this one. The Magic has been rolling. This Piston team is tough too, though. No real lean on the side, but I am going to stick with that under on that theory that one of these teams are not going to score 100 points. It's going to be played like a postseason game as both these teams are jockeying position on the lower half of the Eastern Conference. The Nuggets and the Rockets, same thing, 2 playoff teams. This number comes in at 217. Rockets laying 5 at home. Tonight, this is a big game for the Nuggets because people have not believed in the Nuggets all season. It's Oklahoma City's the second best team in the Western Conference. Portland's second best team in the Western Conference. Houston's second best team in the Western Conference. Nobody says the Nuggets, yet they're the second best team in the Western Conference. I think the Nuggets cover this number tonight, and I would do a money line sprinkle. Might be tough to go into Houston and get this win, but I think it's worth a shot.
The one thing I will say though is Houston needs this game more than the Nuggets.
Yes, they do.
I mean, the Nuggets theoretically, I think they're only a game or a half a game back of Golden State, so they could still end up with the number 1 seed, which would be nice. But whether they come number 1 or number 2, I think it's fine for them because basically, if you come number 1, then you know you're not going to get the Warriors till the finals. But even if you come number 2 or number 3, you're still not going to get the Warriors to the finals because the Warriors are going to be number 1. So I don't think they have as much to play for as Houston does. Houston currently, I think, is the 5 seed, which would mean that they would end up with I think, let's see.
The 4-5 matchup would play Golden State in the second round.
And I think the Blazers, I think, are still the 3 right now. So you don't even get lucky to catch a banged-up Blazers team in the first round. So that would be a tough draw for Houston. So, I mean, you always want to get that home game. So you want to be in the top 4 so that you get the extra home game if it goes to a deciding game in the first round or so. I think Houston needs this game more than Denver does. But I've been a big fan of Denver all year. I mean, Denver has been on a mission this year because they were the team that missed the playoffs on the last day last year by getting knocked out on the last day.
Yep.
So they made sure that their season wasn't going to come down to one game being the reason why they're going to go play golf and not play in the playoffs this year. So it's been a motivated team all year. I really do like Coach Malone. I think he's a good coach. A lot of things to think about there.
Oh, that 217, that feels like it's right on the number. I'm not going to touch the total on this one because Houston could go in there like we need this one. They could blow them out and score 120-something points. The Clippers and the Bucks, this number comes in at a whopping 232, but that's kind of the way the Bucks play. Both these teams are going to the playoffs. The Bucks laying 8.5 in this one. The Bucks have a habit of beating the shit out of teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they want to do, right? Because if they can get a big lead, then they can kind of rest some of their guys that play big minutes. And we talked about yesterday, it's a real deep bench. They got guys that they can bring in that, the drop-off is not as much as the guys that other teams are bringing in from that situation. I like Milwaukee here. 8.5 feels like a little bit too many points there, but I do think it's going to be high scoring. I mean, the Clippers have been playing high-scoring games all season too. Their pace is way up this year. They score a lot of points. They give up a lot of points. The reason why I'd still probably be a little more on the Milwaukee side here, Milwaukee scores a lot of points, but Milwaukee doesn't always give up a lot of points. So if anybody's going to open up a big lead. Like, again, we talked about the Miami Heat, the Utah Jazz. Like, those are not teams that tend to beat teams by 8 to 10 points. They tend to win their games by 3 to 5, decent, easy victories. Milwaukee's a team that they tend to beat people.
No, they'll hammer you. Milwaukee will hammer you. They don't care.
Yeah.
They have something to prove.
They'll beat people by 12, 15, 18 points on a pretty consistent basis because just the way they play offensively and putting up a lot of points, and then the fact that they play lockdown defense, they're a team that can legitimately run away with the game. Whereas, like the Jazz don't have the offensive firepower to run away with the game. Miami the same way. Milwaukee is a team that I've been willing to take the points with, or I've been willing to give up the points a lot of times this season with. And I'd probably say I'd stay that way. But I don't know if I'm betting on that one tonight. I'll probably stay away from it.
Early in the first half of the season, before the Oladipo injury, the Pacers played the same way. The Pacers, when they got a lesser opponent in their building, they would stomp them. You know what I'm saying? So, Benny's gonna got all the basketball covered. So listen, like even though the basketball season's coming to an end, y'all, DFS in the NBA playoffs is just as fun and just as intense. My main man Benny got you covered through that. EliteFantasy.com is where you go sign up for that. Trust me, you will enjoy laying it down DFS style in the NBA playoffs. And my man got you covered on that one right there. All right, here we go. The granddaddy of them all tonight, the NCAA tournament. Benny, this is the one I've been waiting for. This is the bracket buster. This is the whole bracket. This is the whole thing. So I'm going spread. I'm going money line. I was talking to a buddy. You know Joe Lisi, college football guy.
Yep.
So Joe Lisi's a big Florida State fan, football and baseball. So I was talking to Joe the other day, and I was like, yo, Joe, Leonard Hamilton is the best head coach in Florida State history. Oh, and he fell out laughing. He was like, oh, Bobby Bowden this, Bobby Bowden that, Bobby Bowden got championships. I'm like, if Leonard Hamilton cut down the nets this year, Leonard Hamilton, the best coach in Florida State history. I was just teasing him, getting him a little bit riled up, you know what I'm saying? And I did exactly that. But the big game for Florida State is tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting. The one game that I already have a little bit of money down on for the NCAA tournament, and I did it a couple days ago when I first saw the spread, was Florida State and Gonzaga. Now, Gonzaga is a very good team, and there's a lot of people who I respect that are really high on Gonzaga. I have to be honest, I haven't been super impressed with the way they played the first round of the tournament. I've seen them play better, but I'm starting to believe what a lot of people are saying, that this team may be a little bit overrated. And part of the reason is, you know, you look at like the numbers that they have on offense. They're one of the most offensively efficient teams in the entire country. They're one of the best offenses in the entire country if you put the numbers against every other team out there. The problem that I have is, you know, there really is something to be said about the opponents that you've been playing on the year. They have not been playing teams that have the athleticism that Florida State does. I mean, top to bottom, this Florida State team, even the guys they're bringing in off the bench, like a Cabin Galley and stuff like that, they are big, they are long, they are athletic. It's going to be an up and down game, but these Florida State kids want to play up and down games. Like, that's not a bad thing for them. They can play. They played North Carolina. They've gone up and down with teams before. So they're not going to be intimidated by anything here. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull off the win, so I didn't go heavy like money line, although I put a little bit on them on the money line. But I think that 7.5 is way too many points.
Yeah, I think I'm hitting up the 7.5. That's going to be my top dollar bet for the night. Sprinkle something on the money line. Hopefully my bracket will survive. Listen, they're a well-coached team. Everything you said is spot on. Gonzaga has that win over Duke early in the season. They got that win last week versus Baylor. They have losses to Tennessee and a loss to North Carolina. So, listen, in the big moments, they've beaten Duke in November. You know what I'm saying? So
but they also shot the hell out of the ball when they did it. So,
yeah,
you know, I'm not saying – and that's the thing about this Gonzaga team is, like, they could get hot, and they go up and down, and they do have a lot of guys that can hit shots. I mean, if Gonzaga shoots 45%, 50% from three-point line today, sorry, Florida State, you're not beating them. You're not winning that game. But Florida State has the athletes on defense that they can make them take – they have length, they have size. They can make them take tough shots. If you make them take tough shots and they shoot 35%, now you have a chance to beat them, and they're definitely not going to cover 7.5 if they're not shooting well.
Mark Few and Leonard Hamilton, two of the best coaches in college basketball. That is going to be the one of the main events of tonight. Also, kicking off around that time, Purdue and Tennessee open up at 1. It has been bet up to -2 for the Volunteers. Excuse me, let me pull out my app right here. Well, I can't find the damn odds. Oh, this odds. Okay, here we go. Bet up to 2, 64% of the money in tickets on Tennessee. 64% of the tickets on Tennessee, 74% of the money on Tennessee. Tennessee is where the smart money's at. I'm going to be with that smart money. I'm money lining this one with the Tennessee Volunteers. I think they could hammer Purdue tonight. The SEC is just a better conference than what the Big Ten was this year, and they're one of the top teams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think you need to take the money line. I'm fine laying the points on this one. I think they're going to beat them. Purdue played really well last weekend, so a lot of people have that recency bias in their head. If you would have
a bad Villanova team,
that's what I'm saying. Like I wasn't. That victory was not as impressive to me as people are making it out to be. It's like, oh, they beat the defending champs. Well, yeah, but half the defending champs are playing in the NBA right now, so it's not like that was the same team they played last year. I mean, Villanova was not as good this year as they were. They came on late. They wound up having a good year. They're always going to have a good year because Jay Wright's a good coach and he's always going to get them right. But if you would have started the tournament and you would have done the seeding of everybody and you would have done these spreads at that point in time, I would have thought that this game would have been a 4.5, 5-point game. So to see it at like 2.5 right now, I feel like there's value in that line. So I'm not even going with the money line. I have no problem laying the -2. I'll take the higher payout on it.
There you go right there. Texas Tech and Michigan. Michigan opens up as a 1.5 favorite, bet up to a 2-point favorite. 2.5 I've seen some places. Listen, I've watched some Michigan games this year, not a ton. I know when, that Michigan team, they can get hot and they can be real good. I've seen Texas Tech, but every time I've seen Texas Tech, I've seen Texas Tech at home. They're very tough. In Lubbock, in a neutral site, I'm not sure. I really don't have no lean in this one. What do you think, Benny?
I'm of the same mindset. Like, I am not as impressed with this Michigan team as a lot of other people are, but I also don't think Texas Tech is like a world beater. Like, if Texas Tech wins this game, I don't see them moving on to the Final Four and getting out of the Elite Eight. But I also, like, Michigan, I think could if things worked right. So I do probably say Michigan is the way to go here, but betting-wise, this is one of those games I'm just kind of passing on because I don't really have a strong feeling on it either way.
Hard pass for the fantasy executive on this one also, but I will get in on the last contest of the night, UVA and Oregon. Virginia opens up at 7.5-point favorites. It's now sitting at 8.5. I'm going to lay the 8.5. Listen, Oregon, nice run. They've been playing good basketball. The uniforms are cool. It's fun and all of that. The shit comes to an end tonight, Penny.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely expect Oregon to lose. Betting-wise, though, you know, I don't. 8.5's a lot of points, man. That's not the NCAA tournament.
Virginia can shut teams down. Virginia can win this game by 15 points.
They could, but it could also wind up being a 5 or 6 point game towards the end, or even like a 10-point game at the end or something like that. So, I mean, if you're asking me who I think wins, like if we're doing a bracket, I'm taking Virginia to move on. Betting wise, though, I don't know if I want to mess with 8.5 points. I think that's a lot.
I think the free throws at the end will put Virginia over the number.
I'll tell you what, the way that I would play this game if I'm playing Virginia tonight, I'm probably teasing them down, taking the 4 points, going down to like if I can get it at 8 and tease them down to 4 or something like that.
I can dig it.
Yeah, that would make me feel a lot more comfortable. I definitely think Virginia wins this game. I just don't know if they win it by a big margin.
No doubt about it. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, my main man, Benny Ricciardi, the opening line right here, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you like the videos. Thanks for rocking and rolling with us. And make sure you go over to elitefantasy.com. Sign up and get ready for MLB DFS in 2019. Also, if you like to lay it down and put a couple dollars down on a few wagers, make sure you also head on over to guruelite.com. Sign up for one of the betting packages. I was on that page this morning. I got my plan put together. I'm getting ready to hop on the 160, make a trip out to your neck of the woods, Benny. I'll throw the deuces when I ride past the crib.
Yeah, man. I'll be on the porch probably smoking a cigarette in between doing some of my work here.
You just see the fist sticking out the bus window. You know that's me.
Yeah, well, you're going to see the cloud of smoke coming up. So you're going to be good. No, I mean, this is, like you said, this is a great day of betting, man. Whatever your cup of tea is, college basketball, NBA, MLB, you're going to be able to get some money down on all of them. If you can get your work done and you can get out of work early today, head over to the sports book over there. You can go grab some food. You can, bet on all the games and hang out with the degenerates. That's where Corey and I feel at home when we're amongst our fellow degenerates over there.
They did a good thing when they built that. They built heaven. The only thing they need, if they had a lap dance room, then it would be. I'm not leaving.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple upgrades we could talk about, but we'll have to talk to Tommy G. I know he's tight with the management over there. He's got backstage passes and stuff to whatever room he wants to get into. So.
Tommy G got the key to the champagne room, so I wouldn't be surprised if when I get out there today, I see the homie Tommy G. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Big piece of chicken, my man. Benny, I'm going to give my big piece of chicken to Eli Manning because he kept it all the way above. When they asked him who was the most talented person he played with ever, he said Odell. I got to give Eli props for that.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I sent that to you yesterday because when I saw that, I was like, yo, he's with some DC level trolling on that shit. I mean, that was amazing, bro. Giant fans are actually getting my big piece of chicken today for the same exact reason. I got into it with a couple Giant fans yesterday on that exact same thread with the Eli saying Odell is the best player and he's ever played with. You got Giant fans like Odell's not a winner. I'd rather have Plaxico Burress. I was like, you are dumb as shit if that is what you were going to say right now. I just love the fact that Giant fans, there's that whole like the stages of grief. The Giant fans right now are in denial. They're in the denial stage where they're like, well, Odell, we don't need Odell to win. It's like, yeah, you do. You needed Odell to win. And they're like, we won games without him. I was like, man, you haven't won anything without him. Without him, nothing. Well, they won one game like late in the season without Odell Beckham or something like that. I'm like, you guys have no idea. Like, if you're sitting there, if you can honestly say as a Giants fan that you think the Giants are better off without Odell Beckham, then you don't understand how the NFL today works. You just really, really don't. Because there is no way that's the way. So, Giant fans, I'm going to give you the big box of tissues so you can keep crying your tears, but you ain't getting a big piece of chicken today. No way.
Benny, the last significant game the New York Giants played in, I remember it because I watched it at a sports bar in Atlanta, joint called Twin Peaks. I was
I've
like,
been to a couple Twin Peaks.
this is so nice. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Good views, yeah.
And it was full of those arrogant Giant fans. And New Yorkers are more arrogant when they're out of town. You know what I'm saying? Than when they're in town. So
That's true.
so I was like,
I put myself in that category too. That's true.
Yo, Benny. It was the Giants and the Cowboys. It was Sunday Night Football. The Giants must have won the game, something like 14-10, 17-14, something like that. The Giants scored one touchdown in that game. Odell Beckham caught a slant and took it 70-something yards. That was the only touchdown the Giants scored in that game, and that was their last significant game they played.
And that's why Odell Beckham – I mean, this is what I said to people. It's like Odell Beckham can take a 10-yard pass, which is as far as Eli Manning can throw it right now, and do everything he needs to do to take that pass to the house and actually make them score. I mean, you remember last year where the Giants had, like, no touchdowns the first couple of weeks of the season?
Yep.
You remember who threw their first touchdown pass?
Odell Beckham.
Odell Beckham had more touchdown passes than Eli Manning at the beginning there. So don't try to tell me that you're going to be better off without Odell Beckham or that Plaxico Burress is more of a winner than Odell Beckham. Plaxico Burress shot himself in the balls. Plaxico Burress he caught a pass and he spiked it in a very big game without anybody touching him, and the other team picked it up and the defense ran it back for a touchdown early in his career. That's not a guy who's a winner. Plaxico Burress arguably is an even more selfish player than Odell Beckham is, and he had less talent.
So he shot himself in a nightclub.
Yeah, don't go on social media and pretend that, Odell Beckham's not a winner and a guy like Plaxico Burress. If Plaxico Burress is the guy you're putting up there, then I understand why your GM made the moves that he did, because neither one of you know what you're talking about.
Speaking of the GM, Benny, now getting ready to hop off of this joint, do you know at the owners' meeting, the GM has not answered questions from the New York media?
I mean, why would he? There is no answer for why you did this.
It's wild. He's not taking questions from the New York City media. So you already know that Giants are in lockdown mode right now. Then they felt the backlash from the fan base, and obviously the Cleveland Browns becoming the darlings of the NFL. Corey Parson, the fantasy exec, for my main man Benny Ricciardi. Benny, I shot you a holler, my man. We out though.